to make sure that we as well.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome.
Give you recording permission?
I've done that once. We'll do it again. Where are you? I make you co-host. That should give you permission.
Okay.
Good.
You're recording. I have to get recording for you.
I'll stop recording.
No. Don't worry about it. Keep on doing what you're doing.
Okay.
Okay.
We're good?
We're good.
Okay. All right, everybody. We will now stand for the pledge. If everyone on Zoom, I believe everyone's muted, but just in case you're not, if you'll mute so we don't get any feedback. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will now hand over our meeting to the wonderful president, Miss LaShane Goins.
Thank you so much to our wonderful Sergeant at Arms. I tell you, he has come in and has really taken on that role and has done a fabulous job. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you guys here tonight. And just to get started, our club mission is that we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. And our values are integrity, respect, service, and excellence. Now, I would just like to once again thank our visitor for coming tonight to visit us. And we really hope that you get many lessons and nice experience in this meeting. As far as our club announcements, I just want to remind everyone that we do have our speaking contest, the humor contest, as well as the international contest on the 21st of this month. I believe we have 3 individuals participating for the international. Are there any others? And we have several that are participating in our humor contest. Okay. We're going to move right along into our meeting. Are there any other announcements that we need to share at this time? Greg, Lee?
I had no announcements.
Okay.
We'll have a meeting a week from Wednesday.
Thursday.
Week from Thursday.
Yep, we do. Okay. All right, moving forward to our wonderful Toastmaster of the day. I'm excited about what he has for us tonight. I would like to introduce to some and present to others none other than the great Randy Riddle.
Thank you. Fellow Toastmasters and our wonderful guests, tonight's meeting theme is about the Beatles' British music invasion. I was looking up the history of today, and this was one of the things that happened amongst World War II treaties beginning to be talked about. But today, in 1964, the Beatles say and marked the beginning of what would be called the British music invasion, which includes a ton of culture, both pop and rock, in the British culture. We will get into that more as we progress through the meeting. For now, we will go into meeting our evaluation team from our general evaluator, Mr. Barakat Tolcha.
Thank you, Randy. Fellow Toastmasters and our beloved guest. First of all, I would like to say thanks to Lee's video, I realized that I called Randy Alex in last week's I think table topics, right? It was so impromptu that I even missed his name. Sorry, Randy. Thanks to the video. Thank you, Lee. Today we have great evaluation team. Let's start from our grammarian, Greg. Could you tell us your role?
Gladly. Thank you, Barakat. So tonight I will be serving as the grammarian. And so our word of the day is juggernaut. The meaning of juggernaut is a massive force, campaign, movement, or object that crushes whatever is in its path. There was no escaping the juggernaut of hype from the British invasion led by the Beatles. I can't say I remember that day because I was only 9 months old. I'm sure it was exciting. As grammarian, I will be looking for crutch words such as us, you know, so's, those types of words. I'll also, best that I can, look for mispronunciations, improper grammar, and the use of our word of the day. And with that, I turn it back to you, Barakat.
Thank you, Mr. Timer. Mr. Grammarian. Sorry, Greg. Next is our timer. Ms. Cheryl, take it away.
Good evening, everyone, fellow Toastmasters. It's my pleasure to be the timer this evening. So for the prepared speeches, I believe both of them are 5 to 7 minutes. At 5 minutes, you will see the green background. At 6 minutes, you'll see the yellow background. And at 7 minutes, you'll see the red background. And then you do have a 30-second grace period after that, that time. For the table topics again are green at 1 minute, yellow at 1.5, and red at 2 minutes. For the evaluations, each evaluation, it will be green for 2 minutes, yellow for 2.5, and red at 3 minutes. So again, if you are looking for your time, just look at my background and check out the color. So, thank you, everyone. I'll turn it back over to you, Barakat.
Cheryl, be aware that Bernie's speech is 10 to 12 minutes. So
Okay,
10,
thank you. I will change that.
green at 10, yellow at 11, red at 12.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Next, our vote counter, the one and only distinctive Toastmaster, Mr. Lee Halliday.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and our awesome guest, Mila. We are so glad you're here with us. My role is difficult. I have to count the votes. Now, it is more difficult than it sounds because we've got a half a dozen people on Zoom and a half a dozen or so people here in the room. And I have to somehow gather all the votes from there and from here and try to come up with an accurate count of who's going to win best speaker, best evaluator, and best table topics. I will endeavor to not have any hanging chads or miscounts or stuffed ballot boxes or anything like that, but we'll just have some fun while we're doing it all. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you. Finally, as general evaluator, at the end of the meeting, I will give my feedback on how our meeting goes. And that would be all from evaluation. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Barracat. Now, as we go into the speaking portion of our meeting, we have a lineup of two wonderful speakers. The first being our very own president, LaShane Goins. In the next 5 to 7 minutes, she will be speaking from Pathways Effective Coaching, Manage Projects Successfully, from her title, Work Smarter, Not Harder. Our next speaker has been working on a project to help minimize the stress and find ways to contribute to a work environment that makes getting accredited more simplistic. LaShane, take it away.
Mr. Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, and to our honored guests. Yes, working smarter and not harder is so vastly important when it comes down to running an organization. And as I was sharing with you all, I've been working on a project at the home that will allow us to work smarter and not harder. However, as we got started with this accreditation process, what I've learned is that we have lost staff member after staff member after staff member. And we were told once we got started, we would lose staff members. Staff retainment was a juggernaut. The turnover was significant. When looking at numbers, we lost long-time employees. It hurt us tremendously. Why? Because we needed those individuals to work those hours. Even the CEO was working third shift. However, we learned that those individuals, they were not changing the lives of our youth. They were present, but they were not present. Once they were given expectations, it no longer became easy money because they had to work. And adding COVID into the mix, I tell you, it was very difficult. But what we determined was that it's very important that we build staff morale. And how do we do that? Well, the first thing we do is look at money. Money talks and the other stuff walks. Every staff member has the opportunity to become an accredited teaching family model staff. They would have their own certification, which holds a great deal of weight. There are many steps that they must take to see that this gets done. The first thing they must do is create a warm environment for our youth and teach them what it's like to actually live in a family home. You know that boys that are in DSS, typically they come from a broken home and they do not know what it's like to actually have a sound family home. We teach them how to keep their bedrooms clean, how to invite guests over and treat guests with dignity, respect, and hospitality. We also teach them etiquette, and the staff member must learn how to do this. And as a result, they learn those skills. And for that staff member, we actually have evaluators that will come into the home and evaluate their interactions with the boys. Once they become a certified staff, then guess what? They can get a raise. And it should be significant. The other way we build staff morale is through communication. One of the most important things to have in an organization. Just having a scheduled time to talk with your employee and allowing them to give their input is so key. One, you find out more about your organization and you find out information that you just did not know just by giving them a listening ear. Improving that can pay off big time. I propose that we, as an organization, schedule one-on-one meetings to discuss how well the employees are doing, but also to receive feedback on how well we are doing. This is also the time to share the vision of the organization with others and to share with them opportunities that may come for them. One other way to build morale is to show appreciation to your employees by simply writing a thank you card or giving a shout out. That is very inexpensive to do. It takes nothing to give a simple shout out, but you must be very careful. Because if you find yourself giving shout outs to one and not giving shout outs to the other, there's going to be that one employee that will let you know. And if I have experienced it, and they kind of told me off, but I deserved it. But it's okay. We just laughed it off, and it allowed our relationship to become stronger. Very important when it comes down to having employees in an organization, because you know what? Not one person, just one person can run an organization. It takes a team. And it's very important to recognize that team, respect that team, and take care of that team. Because if you take care of those individuals, they will take care of the organization. And most importantly, they will take care of those young men who we are trying to raise up to be strong, productive citizens in their community. In any organization, build the team morale. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, LaShane. Another wonderful speech from our president. Our next speaker happens, I'm sorry, I forgot. 1 minute. Can we get 1 minute on the clock from our timer? I'm getting ahead of myself so that we can get everyone to write their feedback for LaShane. Okay, for our next speech, we will have the one and only Bernie Holiday, who runs our production desk and everything that allows Zoom to work. He is speaking for the next 10 to 12 minutes from the Pathways Presentation Mastery Level 5 from the titled speech, It Is About Time. Finishing a path can be a journey, and photographer Bernie Holiday will examine what it took to finish the presentation mastery pathway, as well as what he intends to tackle next. Bernie.
Thank you very much, Randy. And April 1st, 2019. That's my official join date for Toastmasters. I am an April Fool's Toastmaster. But the 2019 part, that should disturb me a little bit, that this is the first time I'm doing a reflecting on your path. It does bother me a little bit because it's almost 3 years that it took me to get from April Fool's Toastmaster to Presentation Mastery 5. Why did it take so long? Well, first of all, I didn't start out on Presentation Mastery. I started out on motivational strategies. And sometimes I decided that when I wasn't ready to do a speech, or I didn't have the right preparation to do a speech, I said, I can't do a speech. That slowed me down a lot. It also meant that whenever there was an opportunity for me to speak, I didn't take it. Not always. Sometimes I did. But I got to a point in motivational strategies that I stopped. I felt like this thing I'm supposed to do, this project I'm supposed to do, is just too hard, that I can't do it. And so every single time I started looking at it, I said, no, not for me. So that discouraged me more than it should have. I should have never allowed that to stop me from going. But I had to continue to make speeches, so what's the easiest thing to do? Greg? Start a new pathway. That's right, man. So I dialed up another icebreaker, and that icebreaker was for presentation mastery. And man, I am finally at the other side of it. I do have to say that me learning through the pathway system has been great. I actually feel like I've liked the presentation mastery pathway better than I've liked pathways before. Motivational strategies, introduction to mentoring. I'm also, of course, in the humorous pathways. Count them, folks, that's 4 paths, basically, that I'm involved in right now. So it's nice to be here to look at presentation mastery looking back and knock that one off my list. So I don't have to worry about it anymore. About that anyways. So what's next for me as a Toastmaster? Well, I have 2 other paths that I really need to finish. See, that's my problem. I tend to start things. I start a lot of things. I started building a studio, and I have a studio, but I haven't finished. That's why these sound panels are on the wall. That's why there's still painter's tape sitting up on the crown molding that I haven't taken down yet, because and all it takes is me going up there and going flip, and I haven't done it. Why? I wish I could tell you. I wish I knew what was in me mentally that makes me start things, but not finish them. And that, I think, is the issue that I'm going to have to start working on more and more as I continue through this pathway system. Don't just start something and let it sit. So it's about finishing things. It's about finishing things like getting a different audio interface and video interface set up and test it before the start of the meeting. not find out for the last second that for some reason my switcher doesn't like my, anyways, USB bus. None of you want to know about that because it's confusing. So these are the ways I am going forward from now. I want each of you, all of you, as my fellow Toastmasters and Toastmaster hopeful, maybe, kind of, possibly. All right. To be my accountability partners, as we should all be accountability partners to one another. To say, hey, how are you doing on that path? Hey, is there anything I can do to help you on that path? And that means I'm going to be an accountability partner to a lot of other people as well. Saying, hey, is there anything I can do to help you? Is there any assistance I can give you? So that's where I am currently, and that's where I am going to go from here. Hopefully, it won't take another 3 years for me to hit level 5 again. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Bernie. Can we get 1 minute on the clock from our timer so that everyone can send Bernie their feedback? While we wait, I'm going to do what I should have done for the first one, but forgot about. Shame on me. I'm going to continue to tell you about the music invasion. As well as what we've been talking about, the 60s was a wonderful time. It brought us Greg 9 months before the Beatles came. It brought my dad and stepdad. And I don't know when the rest of you were born. So maybe it brought us some of you as well. Not me. I was about 36 years after this. The British invasion refers to, as I mentioned earlier, the rock and pop music, as well as other cultural things from Britain. Immediately after the Beatles came the Rolling Stones, as well as the Animals. They are, in terms of the Beatles, responsible for creating what was called at the time a counterculture. And actually what started their invasion was a song that reached the top 40 on the charts called I Want to Hold Your Hand. Before we continue with this, we will finish out the rest of our meeting. And now I would like to hand our meeting over to our timer for the timer's report of our speeches.
Thank you very much, Randy. Shane, our first speaker, she spoke for 6 minutes and 20 seconds. And Bernie spoke for 5 minutes and 38 seconds. So I'll turn it back over to you, Randy.
Thank you, Cheryl. And if everyone will send your votes to Lee, sitting on the left, if you're here in the meeting, we will hand those over with the paper and the baskets. If you were on Zoom, please send Lee a private chat message with your vote. We will also be handing this meeting over to our general evaluator, Bear. We'll be handing it over to our table topics master, John Frey.
Thank you, Randy. Before we get started, Mila, would you like to participate in our table topics tonight?
Mila, would you like to be in table topics tonight? No?
She doesn't know what table topics is. Why don't you do one with somebody and then ask
Sure.
her?
Yeah, good idea, Lee. Sure. What are 3 things in nature that you find that are most beautiful? What are 3 things in nature that you find most beautiful? Mr. John Abercrombie?
If I have the question right, it is, what are the most beautiful things that I know in nature? Is that correct?
Yeah, what are three of them?
Three of them. One of them is the sunrise, because to me, it signifies the start of a day. And I love to be up at that time of morning, hear the birds, the other animals as they start to come up, and watch the earth fill with colors. The other is sunset, and it is also beautiful. We have, again, the colors, and it lets us know that the world is so vivid at the start and at the end, and it allows us in many times to color in the middle. And so those are two of the most beautiful things that I know of. You asked three. And I think one is falls on the eye, and it's the grandeur of the entire earth. Whether I'm standing in 110-degree weather looking at snow-capped mountains, or whether I'm in Northern California on a mountaintop looking at snow and the ocean, it is all grand. It's granular. It's kind of like a juggernaut of colors that just cascade out of nowhere for my personal enjoyment. Mr. Table Topics, man.
Thank you, John. No, I completely agree about the sunrise. There's something to be said about that 30 minutes, hour before the calm of the storm. So before everything gets started that morning. All right, moving right along. If there's a vacant lot in your neighborhood, how would you use it? Mr. Greg Allen?
Thank you, John. There do happen to be a number of vacant lots in my neighborhood or around my neighborhood, some of which others already have ideas on how they're going to use these vacant lots, like building new subdivisions where houses are this close to one another. One vacant lot is soon to be an Ace Hardware. So I'm really excited about that because I could actually walk to that. But what would I do with a vacant lot? I think I would just put a fence around it and invite people to just come and hang out, play music, laugh, enjoy life in whatever legal, safe, sane ways that they choose to do so. That, John Frey, is what I would do with a vacant lot in my.
Thank you, Greg. All right. Is it possible to lie without saying a word? Mr. Bearcat?
Thank you, John. Interesting question. Let me say it just to make sure I understand it. Question is there a way to lie without saying a word?
Is it possible to lie without saying a word? Right.
Yeah, I think. But just the two things that came to mind. The one is by saying nothing. When you should say something, if you don't say something, somehow you are contributing to the lie. But the other one is by gestures. I think that could be a tricky lie as well. But it could be difficult, and it's usually it could be misinterpreted sometimes. You don't want to lie, or you don't want to say anything, and people simply misinterpret it. It's exposed to multiple interpretations. But I believe, yes, there are ways to lie without saying a word. Thank you, John. back to you.
All right, one question left. Milo, would you want to participate tonight or another night? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. What was the class you found the most useless in high school or college? What was the class that you found the most useless in high school or college, and why?
I believe there were a lot of useless classes in my school. If I think about it a little more, I would say something that I've never used, or I probably will never use, or will never be good at it. Something beyond basic mathematics was absolutely useless for me. I had to struggle with homework and taking an exam. I absolutely believe that I'll never use it. That's it. Thank you. Back to John.
No, I couldn't agree more on the algebra, because I had to take pre and intermediate, so 3 classes on math in college is too much. Can I, at this time, I was going to get a timer's report, Ms. Cheryl.
Yes, thank you very much. All of you did a really great job on the table topics. John Abercrombie spoke for 1 minute, 34 seconds. Greg spoke for 1 minute, 5 seconds. Barakat spoke for 1 minute, 22 seconds. And Mila spoke for 48 seconds. Great job, everyone.
Thank you, Cheryl. At your earliest convenience, please get your votes over to Mr. Lee Holiday. And at this time, I'll turn it back over to our general evaluator, Mr. Bearcat.
Okay, thank you, John. Well, interesting questions. Okay, at this time, we're at, I should say, useful. One of the useful parts of our meeting. Our evaluators, hand-picked evaluators, will give evaluations to our best speakers or to our wonderful speakers. Our first evaluator is, John McKinney, and he will be evaluating Lucian Goins. Take it away, John.
I thought I was evaluating Bernie.
You are.
I saw that chat, but the agenda says, sorry.
That's
Don't
okay.
There were a lot of last minute changes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Fellow Toastmasters, our esteemed guests, and most of all, Lashane. I think you did a great job again, because you always do it. You're focused. You're looking at the subject matter, and it's presented extremely well. You also worked in the word of the day, the juggernaut, and sometimes that is extremely difficult to do. So you have the ability to incorporate things into your work. I
I think the timing was great. Pauses were great. The emphasis was great. But if I had to give you some comments, and again, comments are just one person's view of something. You talked about a few points, and I think it would have been a little bit more impactful if you had numbered them, stated them, gone through them, and then told us what you had told us at the time. There was one question that came up that you could be present without being present. And I think most of us understood what you were talking about. That could have been a brief interjection of exactly what's there, because many people fulfill a job by physical presence rather than being emotionally involved in it, which I think is what you were talking about. But beyond that, I think that you've covered the subject well, presented very well, very clear, very understandable, and very focused. And I, again, look forward to every time that you come before us and speak. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And now our second evaluator is actually the other John, who is the nemesis. He will be evaluating Bernie Holiday. John, take it away.
Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmaster, and our wonderful guest, Mila. And most importantly, Bernie. Bernie, as usual, you never cease to amaze me whenever you get up behind that podium to speak. Whether if it's behind the podium or through or virtually, you always give such great speeches. One of the things I love about your speeches, Bernie, is you don't mind being vulnerable. You don't mind being transparent. And I really appreciate that about you. And whenever you are transparent about anything, you bring humor along with it. You laugh at yourself. And that is a great, great quality to have. I mean, you just told us how you finally finished the path, and you have 2 other paths you need to finish. Much respect to you, Bernie, just for being honest with us. One of the things I would suggest for you to grow on, and of course I'm sitting down as I'm giving this, I saw you doing a lot of this. You had your hands placed across your stomach there. Bernie, you're such a great speaker. Open yourself up a little bit more. Let us feel the engagement coming from you. Let us really connect with you, because you had that gift to connect with people. Another thing that I saw that you do, and I equate that with nervous energy, and I can understand that because I've done the same thing. You're kind of rocking from side to side a little bit. Kind of keep that under control. And that would be an awesome, awesome speech. Because Bernie, you are an amazing speaker. I love to hear you speak. You give some of the most excellent speeches I have ever heard. You're one of the funniest speakers I've ever heard. And I look forward to hearing more from you. Mr. January Evaluator.
Thank you, John. A wonderful evaluation. And now I think it's time for our grammarian, right? Okay. Now, I think it's Greg. apologize. Greg, sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry, my fault.
Okay.
We're good.
That one was
That's right. That doesn't. Can you hear me now? Okay. I was going to say that we should all give ourselves a round of applause. I counted 3 uhs, 3 ums, and 3 repeaters. That's pretty good, I think. Maybe 4 if you count the one you guys didn't hear when I said So overall, I think we did a really great job watching the crutch words. Can we get better? I'm sure we can. A couple of things or words that stood out to me. This one was coined last week, and I love it. I don't know who coined it first, but someone last week came up with the term or phrase, the production desk. And that is just a great name and title for Bernie. I love that.
It's what it is. I mean,
It is what it is. You're right. And you're doing a great job with that. We appreciate that. I heard the word of the day used twice. I loved LaShane's money talks and the other stuff walks. That's a much better way of repeating that phrase, I think. I loved Bernie's own self-title as an April Fool's Toastmaster. I thought that was a pretty neat one. Again, overall, I think everybody did a really great job. I didn't hear any mispronunciations. I didn't hear any improper grammar and very, very few crunch words. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Greg. That's wonderful to hear. I was one of the main contributors to that.
Actually, you did very, very well tonight, Bearcat.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, now it's time to hear our timers report. Cheryl.
Thank you very much. John Abercrombie was our first evaluator. He spoke for exactly 2 minutes. And John McKinney spoke for 2 minutes and 27 seconds. And thank you, and I'll turn it back over to you, Bearcat.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. At this time, if you could send your votes for best evaluator to Lee Holiday. While you're doing that, I will go ahead and give my general evaluation. In spite of some technical challenges we have seen at the beginning, we had a really good meeting. We have started almost on time. We have great speeches from Lucian and Bernie. They were really attention grabbing and well presented. Of course, we have master speakers. And very interesting and surprising questions for our table topics. I actually liked it. I think this is the first time since I joined the Toastmasters that I see diverse table topic questions. I might be missing a few, but great job, John. Our evaluations, and also I should say thank you for our guest Mila for participating. I actually agree on the math thing. I'm called software engineer, so I'm part of the engineering team, but still, I don't think advanced maths is that important. Anyway, thank you. We also have heard very interesting feedback from our evaluators, very actionable comments. Both our evaluators gave real actionable feedback for our speakers that they can act on and they can improve upon. So that was great evaluation. Overall, including Greg's report, it's wonderful to hear that we are improving. That's all I have for general evaluation. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster, Randy. I think.
Can't hear you.
Can't hear me? Is it good now? Okay. We've already had our report, so it may or may not count. But being TMOD after such a long time of not being TMOD was I don't even know how to use it in this context, was a seeming juggernaut. Just like the invasion that the Beatles brought on with the British music. All I have for closing comments, if no one has any club announcements, is that I'm glad that we had a guest tonight invited by our production desk table man, Bernie. And if our guest would like to give us any feedback from the meeting, things that you enjoyed, things that you think need to be changed, worked on, improved, if you'd like to give us that.
Just stand right. Well, you can come up there if you want to, so we get you on camera.
Well, I really enjoyed it. Actually, I thought at first that I would be falling asleep, but I ended up being very involved. And it was very interesting to hear everyone speak. And I was trying to watch our agenda the time, and I think we were going faster than supposed to today. So because we didn't have speaker or the first speaker. Okay. Yes, and I guess the calculation of the speech was a little bit off for some people. So I did enjoy it. That's very positive group here, actually.
Thank you.
And we're glad we came.
Would now like to welcome our vote counter, Mr. Lee Holiday, to come tell us who won in our areas of speaking.
Good. Thank you. Tonight we had participation by two speakers, 4 table topics speakers, and 2 evaluators. Our best evaluator goes to John Abercrombie. Congratulations, John. Stand up here. Yes, sir. Our best evaluator ribbon out of 4 best table topics. Out of 4 table topics respondents, the person who got the most votes was Mila. Come on up. Congratulations. And the best speaker of our 2 featured speakers tonight, please help me give congratulations to Bernie. Congratulations.
We'll kind of squeeze in here. Come here,
John,
Come in the frame, John. You see that? There you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I will just grab a still out of that, since I am the producer. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Awesome job.
Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lee. Do we have any announcements from the president, any officers about the club competition? No?
I think we made them at the beginning of the meeting. We've got a club officers meeting a week from Thursday. And then we have the contest, the international speech contest and the humorous speech contest the following Monday, the 21st.
Lee, since we have so many contestants, will our normal time be long enough for the contest?
It might run a little bit long.
Okay.
I think my agenda calls for people to try to be here at 6:30.
Okay.
So if we can try to convene at 6:30, we can keep them running too late that night. That's on the 21st. The 21st. Okay. Yes.
And the officers meeting you said is not this Thursday, but next.
Yes, and that'll be at 8 o'clock by Zoom.
Okay.
Lee, how long are those humor speeches? How long are those?
5 to 7.
Okay.
Well, if we don't have anything else, I will call this meeting to adjournment.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.